My name's Julie Breen. I was brought up in Redcar, which is a seaside town in the northeast of England. I was born in Hull. Very soon after I was born, I was adopted, and so I was brought up by adopted parents in Redcar. My childhood, as far as I can remember, was a completely normal childhood. I used to just be out and about, exploring, playing on the beach a lot. I loved my father, loved my mum, and I can never remember not knowing that I was adopted as well. And it always made me feel like I was really special. I was brought up as a Catholic. Went to a Catholic school, and I had a very good education. I suppose up until about the age of 11, my dad had taken me to church. My mum wasn't Catholic, but my dad was. And then, like, I suppose, like most kids, I don't want to go to church anymore. And there wasn't. It was just what I did. And it was about the time I went to college that I started thinking about, well, is there a God? Is this all true? What I'm led to believe? And it was a little bit like, belief in God was always really easy, but everything else I was led to believe, everything else I had to take on faith. I don't know whether I felt it was difficult to believe, but it was all like, right, I've got faith in God, and therefore I have to have faith in this and this and this and this and this. And it was a little bit like a wobbly house of cards. And eventually, my brain would go, oh, it doesn't make much sense. It all comes like crashing down. And my life was constantly getting busier and busier and busier as a student, as a kind of a professional student who went on from sixth form to university and did a degree. Then I, qualified and became an optometrist. Then got married, had two lovely children, two lovely girls. And then very soon went back to work after that. So I was kind of juggling being at work, and that kind of went from, a couple of days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, back to full time again, then and having children, and then running a home. And then instead of just being an optometrist, then I had my own business, and I was a company director, and all the stuff that came with that. And then I got involved in kind of local optical politics as well. And then I became a magistrate. And it was just like stuffing my life with stuff to do. And I think probably in retrospect, it was kind of trying to keep myself really, really busy. Because then if you're really busy, you don't have a lot of time to think. And then you don't have a lot of time to reflect on, the important stuff really. Life and universe questions that really everybody at some point asks themselves, and probably it's a lot of people did like what I did and just kind of turn away from it and go like, I'm going to fill my life with other things. In 2011, I for that year had a student, a pre-registration student, which is what optometrists sometimes do, and my student for that year was a Muslim. And I'd never really worked with a Muslim before. One sister I'd worked with before, but my work was so busy I really didn't have much chance to kind of talk to her and get to know her. Although, to be honest, she broke every stereotype that I had of Muslims that I thought was true, because she was warm and generous and happy, and she wore hijab. Didn't seem very oppressed. So, I was, that surprised me. But my student, because he was my student, I had a chance to talk to him a lot more. And that was really when I started, first of all, my misconceptions about Islam and Muslims were thrown out of the window. And also I started looking at what exactly Islam meant. He was always really, really respectful of everybody. There's in any group of staff, there's always going to be somebody, having a problem with somebody else or somebody complaining about somebody else. He never got into any of that. And being in kind of a service industry where you have the general public, on occasion, members of the general public will come and rattle your cage because they've had a bad day. There'll be some reason, but somebody will really upset you. And most people would, go into the staff area and mouth off, and that's just they're letting off steam thing. And on one occasion, something had happened that had quite upset my student, and I couldn't find him. I was like, "Where is he?" I had no idea. And 10 minutes later, he reappeared, and I said, "Where were you?" He went, "I was really so upset. I had to go and pray." I'm like, "Why would you want to do that?" And it was like that was how he would regain his tranquility. I was like, this is interesting. But a couple of months went by because I'm British and I have British reserve, and it took a while for me to start asking questions. I was asking really, thinking about it now, probably really boring questions like, how many times a day do you pray? And he turned around and went, this Trinity thing, what's that all about then? He was asking me really difficult questions about my religion, questions that I was having real difficulties answering. And he was really starting to make me think about, I suppose, and admitting to myself really that perhaps Christianity and Catholicism wasn't quite all that it could be. One day we were coming back from, it's one of these conferences where you have like your student and the supervisor goes, so we'd gone to Birmingham, we were coming back, and he sat in the car and he didn't really shout at me, but he raised his voice a bit and he went, "Do you know, Julie, just because you're born into it doesn't make it right." And I went quiet for a little while, and I think he might have thought I'd upset me, but he hadn't. I was just thinking, good point, well made. And I asked for a Quran to read. And he did say that, if I had any questions, to text him. And I don't think he was ready for the barrage of texts that arrived, because I texted and texted and texted. And when I first started reading the Quran, I was expecting something very similar to the Bible, really, kind of a biography, or like the New Testament is kind of 4 biographies. And this read completely differently. It was like a set of instructions, and each surah had a different theme and a different set of instructions. And it was the ones really towards the end of the Quran where things really started to click into place, where, we're told that we're only here to worship Allah, but that's our purpose of our creation, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That the reason why we are, we're just here to judge who is best in deeds. And yeah, that's, why else would we be here? Everything else has a purpose. Surely we have a purpose. And this was a rational explanation of why we're here, and what our purpose is going to be. So it's not just live and die. It's born, live, do the best you can, be judged upon that, and then the justice of Allah gives you, well, we never deserve Jannah, but if by His mercy and His forgiveness, that if we are granted Jannah through our deeds, then it's that made so much sense to me, really. I'd read this and I knew it was the truth, but I kind of looked down the barrel of what Islam would be, and I was scared. I didn't know. I was just dithering. And I've read so many times in the Quran that they said that if you disbelieve, if you know the truth and you still don't take any action, that's worse than not knowing at all. So I was kind of trawling through the internet one day, not looking at anything in particular, when your brain's switched off, when you're doing the surfy thing. And this thing popped up and it said 4-day retreat for new Muslims by an organisation called AIRA. I thought, I wasn't even looking for anything Islamic, it just kind of popped up. I thought, I wonder why that's there. rang the number, said, "Oh, you must do this every week." And they were like, "Actually, we've just done the pilot and this is the first full one we've done." I'm like, "Oh, how could this have popped up?" I thought, "Oh, that's not coincidence." Well, there's no such thing as coincidence, obviously. But it was really like, oh, I think I'm going to have to do something about this. So I decided I was going to have to take my Shahada. And I rang my student up and said, "What do I have to do?" And he said, "Look, just come and see me and we'll have a cup of tea and have a talk." So I had a cup of tea. I said, "Right, I'm going to take my Shahada." And he said, "Well," and I was thinking, "Okay, then just tell me what to say." "Oh, no. I had to say, why I was, why I was convinced that Islam was the truth, why I was convinced that there was a creator, why I was convinced there was messengers, why I was convinced the truth of the Quran." I was like, I'm going to have to take an exam before I can actually get into this religion. And I know that I needed to have that conviction. He needed to be certain that I had that conviction before I took my Shahada. So obviously I said the words in English, I said them in Arabic, and I was like, and then what? So he kind of rang this number, said, "Right, speak to sisters now." And I was put in contact with a sister from Bradford to speak to. But the following day I was going to on this retreat. I went home and I told my family that I had taken my Shahada and I was Muslim, and they went mental. There was my youngest daughter was sat there going, "Oh, Mum, anything but being a Muslim." My eldest daughter was probably less. I got less reaction from her. My husband was. He was really shocked. He said he was really, really shocked, and that why didn't I speak to him about it? I didn't really have much time to discuss it in any case, because the following day I was off to the retreat, and I'm so glad I went on that retreat. I really met some absolutely amazing sisters there. Do you know how it's like? In 4 days I made some of the best friends I've ever made in my entire life. And these were complete strangers, but the thing that brought us together was Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the strongest thing that can knit people together. But as a revert and knowing nothing about Islam, and the thing is with born Muslims is they don't know what we don't know. And I walked into the hotel room and I thought, well, what's that jug doing by the toilet? Even simple stuff like that. I had no idea. I just had a manicure and a pedicure, and they wanted my nail varnish off. So, well, even my toenails. Yeah, even your toenails. And this, I suppose, and the segregation was what really surprised me, because I'd never come across that before. Although I'd read about it, I suppose, in the seerah really, but I'd never kind of visualised it. I was taught how to pray in those 4 days as well, and that was one of the most important things that they felt they needed to teach us, and alhamdulillah, yes, it was. And bless them, they were trying to just give me as much information as they could. They found out that I'd been Muslim for 2 days, and they were kind of, she needs all this information. So they were giving me as much as possible. It was getting on towards Ramadan, and sort of about that time, a couple of things happened really. I didn't think I would want to cover, and I thought that dressing modestly would be enough for me. And then a woodpecker took residence on the back of my head and started going, "You got to cover, you got to cover, you got to cover," and it was really, really. It was something that was on my mind all the time. So I thought, right, what I'll do is I'll buy a scarf, and I'll, because I used to work on a Sunday, so I thought, right, everybody was usually asleep when I got up on a Sunday, so I'd get up, put the scarf on, go to work, see how it went, come back home. And so I did that, came back home, and And I thought, well, I could cop out and I could take it off before I could get in the house. And I thought, no, that's not terribly, you know, it's not the sincere thing to do. So I left it on. And when I walked in the house, my husband was making Sunday dinner, and he went bonkers. He looked at me and he just went, do you know what? I've tried. I really, really tried. And I'm like, but I'm already Muslim. But it's the hijab that really bothered him. The scarf that was really bothering him. The fact that I looked Muslim was what was bothering him more than the fact that I was Muslim. And but I thought, well, I just felt so much better wearing the hijab. I felt that was what I was supposed to. It just felt more natural. And from then on, I started wearing the hijab, and I also very, very quickly started to wear jilbab as well. And that was really when my children started to object to it as well. My youngest daughter, probably more than my eldest daughter. About that time, I left my work as well. And it's about that time I resigned from the magistracy as well, actually. It all kind of came at once. And you know, everything was easy. Alhamdulillah, everything was easy. I was doing the same job, but I had to do locum work, so I was working a lot less. I just had time to think, and I had time to reflect. And kind of coming up to sort of November, December time, optometrists really, certainly locum optometrists don't do much work in December, because unlike retail everywhere else, you know, at Christmas time everybody's spending money. The last thing they're spending money on is glasses. So there's just that, you know, there's very little work. And the fact that at that time as well, because the daylight kind of closes in, all the prayer times seem to be quite close together. And because I didn't have anything to do, I thought, well, I might as well just pray, you know, my father and my sunnah prayers. I seemed to spend most of my time praying, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. It brought me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and closer to I just felt a closeness to my Creator. When I decided I had to resign from the magistracy as well, I was when I converted, I did for a while sit on the bench fully covered, and it was I was told, yeah, this is great, you know, you seem to be integrating into the community, and I kind of got that kind of comment. I was treated with a few hate stares from the gallery, but yeah, I was doing all right. And but then there's this current overhaul of the sentencing guidelines, and there were, for some reason, after the overhauled assault, and they were going on to dangerous dogs, and they wanted some magistrates to help with this overhaul of the sentencing guidelines for the Dangerous Dogs Act. And I suddenly thought, oh my goodness, these are laws that that they're asking magistrates to not only pass judgments using, but to implement. And I just suddenly thought, you know, after all this reading, you know, the legislator is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I am using man-made laws to make these judgments. And I just thought, I just can't do it. And also the fact that they call you worship when you're in court, which did make me a bit squirrely. But I really couldn't equate, using judgment and using man-made laws when I knew that man wasn't the legislator, that it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I had to resign. My advice to potential reverts is that once you've taken your shahada and you know that that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you, everything becomes much easier. I never thought I'd be able to dress like this, to cover like this. I just thought that was, I would never have seen myself dressed like this. I would, you know, just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes everything easy. Giving up alcohol was easy. And you really, it's to have that to be able to have that knowledge that, you know, if you do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it will be easy for you, that to have trust in Him. You know, it's, you know, yeah, you are as a woman, you are obviously Muslim, but it says in the Quran that, you know, it isn't an option. You know, to cover is something that that is fard on you, and it does say in the Quran that, you know, the reason, well, that to wear hijab and jilbab to identify you as a Muslim woman. So if you look at my life now with Islam compared to how my life was before Islam, if you look at it materially, you would think that I had had a brain mashed potato transplant, because I have nothing of what I had before. I have a fraction of what I had before. And yet, to be doing what my Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, asks me to do, to keep to the halal and avoid the haram, and to do everything I can, and I'm not very good at it, but to do everything I can to attain the pleasure of my Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gives me more happiness and tranquility and just general calm than I've ever had before. And I just, you know, it's knowing that this is what I was created for, and this is what I'm doing, and doing it to the best of my ability. That's all I need, really. And I've discovered that all the trappings, all the money and all the stuff and all the holidays and all the success has got absolutely nothing to do with happiness, and has got nothing to do with tranquility. There's no way on this earth that getting stuff makes you happy. It's doing what you were designed to do, what you were created to do, that makes you happy. And that's why I'm happy now, and I wasn't happy before. I'm seeing, even myself after 2 years, I'm seeing more reverts. So there is a need, I think, for support kind of countrywide, and not every revert is like me, because if I feel I want something, I will go out and get it. I will bother people until I get it. And I do worry about reverts who aren't as go out and getty as I am. And I do feel that there is and it's not for want of not caring in the community, in the Muslim community. It's just that everybody's busy and everybody has a family life, and that's, you know, you take your shahada and everybody's mashallah, tabarakallah, have a book, you know, we'll see you every now and again. But when do you see people? You know, you're always paths are crossing, everyone's busy, and there is a need to have some organisations out there. But the Muslim community also has an obligation, I think, to make sure that the reverts in the community don't fall through the cracks, because it could be quite easy for that to happen.